The Cold War, 1947 to 1991, a time of tension between the capitalist and communist ideologies. Our story begins with two main leaders, Joseph Stalin, the leader of Russia, and President Roosevelt, the leader of America. These two men were married in a marriage of convenience against Hitler in the Second World War.
This marriage is convenient.
These two leaders, along with Winston Churchill, the leader of England, took part in what was known as the Yalta Conference, which discussed many issues with the world as of current.
So, what do you guys think about Germany? Do you all agree?
Yeah.
Do you all agree about the Russian sphere of influence?
Yeah.
Do you agree about Russia's involvement in the Japanese War?
Yes.
What do you think about Poland?
This border should be moved further away from Russia.
No. Oh, yes.
This disagreement about Poland wasn't the only issue at Yalta, as Stalin and Roosevelt were also fighting a lot behind the scenes.
I want a fair fight. Nothing below the belt and no eating. Go.
Sadly, a mere couple of months after Yalta, Roosevelt's polio that had been troubling him for years finally got to him and he died, meaning that Harry S. Truman could take his place as the new President of the United States of America.
Oh. I'm President! Yay! Yay!
Shortly after Roosevelt's death, Adolf Hitler also died, in a secluded part of Germany with a bullet to the head.
Oh no, the Russians!
With this new formed trio of Winston Churchill, Harry Truman, and Joseph Stalin, the Potsdam Conference took place in the same format as Yalta. But there were a lot more disagreements here due to Harry Truman's certain disliking of the communist ways.
What do you think about the strength of Germany?
I think Germany should be kept strong and be turned into a socio-political place for which we can trade with. Don't you agree, Churchill?
Oh, yes.
I think Germany should remain weak for what they did in the war.
How dare you?
During the Potsdam Conference, Winston Churchill was voted out of his position as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom and was replaced by Clement Attlee, who took over the proceedings at Potsdam.
Wait, where's Churchill going? Oh, hello, Clement Attlee. Hello.
What are your thoughts on Stalin setting up a communist government in Poland?
I think that Poland should be kept to have its own government because capitalism is much better and forcing them to go under the communist regime is horrific. Don't you agree, Attlee?
Yes, quite.
What are your thoughts on this, Stalin?
Poland should stay as it is with communist government.
I hate you.
Much as before with Roosevelt and Stalin, Truman and Stalin argued and bickered a lot behind the scenes, but this time with much bigger consequences and issues.
Hey Stalin, guess what? I've perfected the new atom bomb. What do you think?
It's stupid.
How dare you?
Meanwhile, in March of 1946, the now de-elected Churchill gave a speech in Fulton, Missouri, about the Iron Curtain, as he described it, that was separating communist Russia and Europe from the other Western worlds.
This is the Iron Curtain. It separates the Western world from the communist Russia.
Along with the Iron Curtain being a threat, the Soviets, led by Joseph Stalin, were quickly taking over a lot of Europe, worrying capitalists with the communist regime.
Leader Stalin, we have currently taken over the Baltic states, Poland, Romania, Bulgaria, Czechoslovakia, East Germany and Hungary, but we are still having issues with Greece and Yugoslavia at this current time. We're doing very well, sir.
They're all mine.
To attempt to combat the westward movement of the communist regime, the Truman Doctrine and Marshall Plan were both put in place, mainly to give money, weapons and advice to the European countries that were not communist, in hopes that capitalism would be able to reign free.
Right. Hello, Europe. Here's some money for you to take. Here's some weapons. And don't do drugs. So, yeah.
Angered by the doctrines and plans put in by Truman, Stalin decided to blockade Berlin in an attempt to starve it, hoping to push away the Americans and English.
Stalin, what is this?
This is Berlin!
You've blockaded Berlin.
Yes.
Why?
So that you cannot get to the other side of Berlin.
Right. We have to get planes and equipment over to Berlin, okay?
I can hear you.
Don't you mean we use the planes to get the equipment to Berlin?
Yes.
This began what was known as the Berlin Airlift, which brought supplies to Berlin in its time of desperate need. This constant battling between the USA and the USSR spawned the creations of two groups on either side. NATO for the US and other Western groups, and the Warsaw Pact, a set of communist countries allied. After much more debating, a wall falling down, and communism eventually spiralling out of existence, the Cold War, which lasted from 1947 until 1991, came to an end. Thank you very much for watching.